Today we have Roberta L, who is going to be our speaker at this April 16th, 2025 meeting of Overeaters Anonymous 100 Pounders. Roberta hails from LA right now, but for the last 12 years and came from Long Island, where she became a member of OA and found her recovery and has been in program 45 years. Take it away, Roberta.
Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm Roberta. I'm a recovered compulsive overeater and very happy to be here. Very grateful and just living in recovery, which is so different from the way I came into this program. Like Lori said, I've been here for 45 years. I came in 1979. By the way, I think you're sending literature to newcomers and people in their first is incredibly wonderful. I have never heard a meeting do that before, so kudos to you. I came into these rooms, like the big book says in the chapter, A Vision for You, having those four hideous horsemen on my soul: terror, bewilderment, frustration, and despair. I grew up, I was always chubby, heavy, fat, obese. It progressed, and I suffered many humiliations, and I'm sure you can share with me the embarrassment of being the only one in the band who couldn't fit into the band uniforms. They had to get a special one for me. Same with gym class, ordering the gym suits, the having to walk home and having myself pointed at by people, and when I was working in a store and eating some cake or something, and the kid wanted it, and her mother said, well, no, because we want to get into our bathing suits. We don't want to be fat. And just these humiliations under an old, inward and outward and all overward. So I came into the rooms in 1979, and you told me I had a disease. And that was a wonderful feeling, because I always thought it was because I had no willpower. I was so able to accomplish things in school, and from the outside, it looked like I had a perfect life. I was married to a lawyer. I had 2 kids. I lived in the suburbs, but I was miserable inside. I was full of the frustration and despair that Bill talks about in the description of the horsemen. I was embarrassed. I was demoralized. I was defeated. I didn't want to come to Overeaters Anonymous. I didn't want it said. I mean, it was obvious that I must have been an overeater, but it was just an embarrassing name. I don't like the name, but I've accepted it. I don't like a lot of things in life, and I've learned that if I'm going to be fighting everything that I don't like, I'm not going to be the happy, joyous, and free person that I could be. So first, I'd like to share some photos, my OA photos here. Um, so this is, yeah. So this is me about age 6 or 7, so much bigger than my cousin who was a year older than me. This was my sweet 16, over 200 pounds. And by August of 79, when I joined program, I was 240 pounds. I lost my weight in 10 months. I came down to 140. Now I weigh under 130. And I didn't hold this weight very long. About a year, less than a year, I started eating again. And the the miracle is that I never gained back the 100 pounds. I was lucky. I only gained back 50. So here I am in 1998, a few years before my miracle, when I came back, came back strong. And I have one more picture I wanted to show you. This is a picture of, oh, what happened to it? Can you see it? No, it stopped. I wanted to show you the picture 2 years ago when my family and I went to South Africa, and I went snorkeling with the seals. And there I am with my grandson. So at the age of 83, I'm 80. I'm 85 now, and I put this beautiful picture of the ocean in back of me. It's a gray day here today, but I feel like I live in the ocean and in the sunlight of the spirit because of this program. So my first stint in OA, I worked the steps, I went to meetings, I did everything that my sponsor told me to do, and I had some recovery. My life did get better because when you're walking around 100 pounds overweight, everything is so difficult. So when I got down to a more of a size that could um, live in the world more easily, not feel so finger pointing worthy or unworthy. And, and the loneliness that comes with being heavy, because food was, king food. That was what soothed me. That was what my companion was. And it was not a happy life. I was not a happy person. I was fairly depressed. I was angry. I was blaming everybody for everything. And that kind of has been my pattern. I always looked outside of myself for the answer. And finally, I realized that the answer is within. So after 22 years of this kind of recovery and relapse. I went to meetings, I used the tools, but I didn't fully surrender. I didn't realize that, yes, it's not a diet club, it's not anything but a spiritual malady. My overeating and my behavior with food was a spiritual malady. I was always looking for something to fill the hole within, and nothing seemed to be the right thing. And after I first joined OA, I know I'm skipping around a little because I'm going back now to 1980 when I went to conventions. We used to have conventions at the Concord Hotel in upstate New York for 1,000 people. That was kind of the heyday of OA to me in the early 80s. And there was so much recovery around, but yet I picked up the first bite and I thought, maybe I need a stricter food plan. So I went to a gray sheet. When I first came in, we had something called blue sheet, which allowed you one piece of bread a day. Gray sheet had no carbs on it at all. And that wasn't the answer. And I tried mindful eating and all kinds of food plans, and nothing was the right one for me. In 2002, I had already retired from teaching, and I thought my life would be so wonderful. And yet I was dragging. I couldn't get out of bed because it depended how I ate the day before. My life always depended on my weight. I remember my freshman year in college. I came into college, I was 185 pounds. I remember so clearly, I lost 45 pounds in freshman year. Sophomore year, I gained back 75 pounds. I was up to 200, I don't know, 220 or whatever. I always was up and down. I was a successful dieter, but never understood that to maintain it, you couldn't go back to the way I wanted to eat. I never learned how to eat properly. It was always a diet. It was always with a goal in mind. And then I never thought through that you can't go back to crazy eating, or the weight's going to come back on. So I'm very grateful for Overeaters Anonymous, because before that, I had been with Weight Watchers. I lost weight. I was a leader with Weight Watchers. But once I started to gain weight again, I never solved the real problem, which was the spiritual malady. I thought that I was the be all and everything. I had a vague, I was probably agnostic. Yeah, God probably existed, but not exactly for me. And in 2002, I was reading some outside literature, and it said, when were you most happy in your life? When were you really involved and living life in a wonderful way? And for me, it was those early years in OA, when I felt useful, when I was sponsoring, when I was giving. So I started to look for a sponsor who was not necessarily the thinnest person in the room, but seemed spiritual. And this woman used to share how when she drives, she never drives over the speed limit. And I was a reckless driver. I started at the speed limit. I would go through orange lights. I was not a careful, I was a good driver, but I took chances. And when I get into the car now, I pray to God to please guide me and slow me down and let me be a safe driver. I've learned to talk to God. You taught me how to talk to God. You taught me how to pray to God. The first thing was to get a God of my understanding. And whether you do, my sponsor said, get a clean sheet of paper. By this time, my son had become religious. He's a rabbi, he's Orthodox. So I thought, well, maybe if I become, if I kosher my house and I live in a spiritual way, I was looking to others for my answer. So I had a rabbi come in and kosher the house, and I observed Shabbos, and I bought kosher meat, and that didn't help. Nothing helped until I got a God of my understanding. My God is totally loving, cheerleader, helpful in every way, a little few human traits and many beautiful principles. My God is calm and loving and forgiving and joyful and compassionate, and all the words that we learn that to me are loving and kind. And I used to think that being smart was the most important thing, and now I see that being kind is the most important thing. So I came back strong in 2002 and started writing down my food again. And at that time, I realized I don't have to stay away from sugar, or white flour. It wasn't the substances that were getting me down. It was basically the behaviors, the grazing, the uncontrolled eating, the needing to finish the boxes and bags of whatever. So I am I consider myself lucky because I don't have a particular allergy to sugar or flour. But the point is not to do something that someone else can do. My sponsor always says, just like our fingerprints, our food prints are very unique to us. And step one is being honest with what you can handle and what I can't handle. And so I don't have a piece of cake when I'm entertaining and I'm stressed and I'm doing things. But if I'm calm and if I'm in a place where, okay, I can have it, but I'm not lusting after it, it's in a new place of neutrality, I find that I can have a piece of something and not want to go and eat the whole thing. It's a miracle. I don't understand it, but I don't question it. And it's not the most important thing in my life. The most important thing in my life is the relationship I have with my higher power that just keeps getting stronger and better as I become more willing to just do God's will, whatever that looks like. And during the pandemic in 2020, I became very much more into meditation. I always did a little meditation because that's part of our step 11, meditation and prayer. But I went to a Region 2 convention and someone was talking about meditation. And I during the pandemic, I went to many meditation meetings, and I joined a Sangha. I got a little interested in Buddhism and checked it out, and they have wonderful principles. And it's like I take what I like and leave the rest. I am so grateful for the ability to choose, that I'm not so addicted any longer to eating something. I can take it through to the next morning, because yes, I still get cravings, and oh, wouldn't it be nice to have? And then I think of the story in the big book of the guy when there was not a cloud in the sky, so he thought he'd have a few cocktails before dinner, and before you knew it, he was drunk and having, lost everything. So I'm able to pause. I learned to pause in recovery, and that's a beautiful thing. When someone asks me a question, I thought I was compelled to answer, but I found I can say, I'll get back to you on that. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't have to be the be all and the end all Mrs. Answer Woman who has all the answers to all the world's problems except my own, because that's how I was. And the meditation slowed me down enough. I did guided meditation for a few years. I now do a certain practice that I learned at the Omega Institute about 20 years ago, where I spend a certain amount of time in my mind. So I let the thoughts come. I spend a certain amount of time in my body. I do a body scan. And then in my heart, I do metta prayers. May I be safe. May I be happy. May I be strong. And may I live with ease. And wishing it not only to myself, but trying to expand the amount of people that I wish it to. And I learned that the fourth quarter of my meditation I spend in my soul, which is still a mystery to me, but I know there's a spark in all of us, whether you call it your highest self, your soul, your best self, um, your intuition. That's the part that I spend the last part. So I could do maybe, usually, let's say a 40-minute meditation. I set a bell after 10, after 20, after 30, and after 40. And that has been helpful for me. I didn't do that well with just breathing in and out. I needed a little more for my meditation. But like the big book says, or not the big book, but the step book says, there's no wrong way to do meditation. The only wrong way is not to do it. I started with a little app on my phone. It was only 2 minutes. Just make yourself sit for 1 minute. The key is to do it consistently. I do it every morning. I wake up now that I have a lot of leisure time, and my first hour, hour and a half, I spend doing my morning routine. I spend time with God. I meditate for a long time. I have set prayers that I say, some of them from my religion, many of them from the big book. And I have a few readings that I do. And I do a daily two-way prayer, which I learned a few years ago, a letter to God. I write whatever is on my mind. It can be trivial, it can be deep, something that I'm having trouble with, asking God to help me. I've heard in these rooms, I believe in God, but God is too busy to take care of my food. That's something I need to do. I disagree with that. God is not too busy to take care of anything. He wants us to eat properly, to feel good about what we eat. God has all the time, all the power, and can do anything that we want him to do. So I use the pronoun he. I know some people are uncomfortable with it, but I'm just used to it. And that's my morning routine after I do my reading and writing and meditation and prayers. And my prayers got so many that I now have in my God box, I had to divide them up into 7 days of the week. So I have a little stack for each day of the week. And I keep them in my God box along with precious photos and some other mementos I have. And about 3 years ago, I got really interested in emotional sobriety. And I started going to workshops on that. And all that is really living life in a way, once the food was down. And in 2002, when I started writing down my food again and did my own food plan, I've never been to a nutritionist. I know what I can eat, what I like to eat, what's healthy. Most of us are experts in calories and nutrition. And I was able to craft, and it changes, but basically, I eat 3 meals a day and I usually have 2 snacks. And there's nothing, my abstinence is being kind and loving to myself. I put down the whip in 2002. If I have a bad day with food and eat more than I wanted to eat, okay, it was a bad day. There's a wonderful woman that I really admire who talks about our days of abstinence as being trees in the forest. And some of the trees are gorgeous, and some of them are half dead, and stumps and maggots on them, but they're each a day of abstinence. And I am in recovery, so I have 23 years. I will not look back, I will not start over, because I do have neutrality and sanity around food. And when it does call, I try to envision the wiser choice, and I do make mistakes, and that's okay. Every day is not perfect. I do a gratitude list at night so that I can keep myself in a positive frame of mind. Most of us, and I think the brain I think they say there's a negativity in the brain, and I need to keep it more positive. So I could easily tell you what went wrong during the day, but that's not what I do. I write down what went right during the day, the things that I'm grateful for, and I send it off to my sponsor, who's a wonderful role model to me. I found her in 2007. I was at a World Service Convention in Philadelphia, and my roommate heard her speak and said, "Oh my God, you have to talk to her." And she has taken me on this journey the last 17 years. She's 93 years old. She'll be 94 the end of May. She's a fabulous, fabulous life on life's terms person. She accepts what is, but she just is so positive and always looks on the bright side. So I wanted to get back to emotional sobriety because I learned some wonderful things. Life is not fair. Life is not fair. I can kick and scream, but life is not fair. And until I accept that, I can't be happy, as it says in our story on acceptance. Until I accept life completely on life's terms, I won't be happy. I learned not to take things personally. People do things because they are who they are. It's not about me. They would do it if it was someone else too. And that little thing about not taking things personally gives me a more of a set balance, and I'm not at everybody's whim, because I realize that life is not fair. And I have a lot of unenforceable rules. And I've got to give up my unenforceable rules to be happy and to be in recovery. I have a lot of high expectations and they get me nowhere. I had a sponsor, God bless her, who used to say low expectations and high hopes. I have a lot of shoulds. I've learned in emotional sobriety that I'm okay even if things don't go my way. I'm okay. I used to be okay only if I got my goal, only if I got whatever it was that I wanted that day, only if my husband would do this, that, or the other, only if my kids, only if, and that is BS. I'm okay even if the sun doesn't shine. I'm okay because I have found my inner self, my authentic self, not the false self that I became when I went into the food and thought that I had to people please or you wouldn't like me. We all want love and affection and attention. And when I did my 4 steps, always the thing that was most obvious in my last column was that I was self seeking. I wanted your attention. I wanted your affection. I was always doing things for other people. So I learned to manipulate and control. So you would do what I wanted. But now, and I had to be right. And now I'd rather be loved than to be right. And in emotional sobriety, I learned that no one is coming. You know, Bill talks about emotional sobriety in a letter he wrote in the 50s, saying that emotional sobriety was going to be our next frontier. Once we put the plug in the jug, once we're able to get the food in order, then we need to work on the rest of our life. You know, our lives had become unmanageable, the second part of step 1. And in order
Roberta,
to
that's 5 minutes.
Okay, thanks. And in order to do that, I need not only support my physical recovery by exercising, I do weight training twice a week now, strength training. I walk, I try to walk at least 5 days a week. I get 10,000 steps. The mayor's house, I found out when they were doing demonstrations in front of the mayor's house about, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, where it was. And it's only about a mile and a half from where I live. So that's my walk every morning. That's my goal. I walk to the mayor's house and back. So exercise is a part of my physical recovery. My spiritual recovery is my morning routine, my talking to God during the day and connecting, just looking at a beautiful sunset, seeing a hummingbird, all beautiful flowers, looking at babies. I see God all day long. And my emotional well being are all these new ideas that I've learned to keep myself in balance. So I don't no longer need to be right. I can say, "Ooh, wow, I made a big mistake. I'm wrong." Because I have a lot of self-esteem now because I've been living in this beautiful body and I don't need other people to build me up. I have self-confidence and I'm hoping to develop more humility. I'm a compassionate and loving person. I've learned forgiveness, to forgive myself for all the stupid choices I made and not dwell in the past and not be in self pity. And I've learned to forgive others because I've learned to forgive myself. So I've learned, what have I learned? I've learned to connect with people who nourish my soul. I don't stay with people who I'm not comfortable with, who don't feed me. And some of the wonderful, we have so many wonderful sayings in program. And through the years, I've heard many of them. And some of them I like is let God be my compass and get off the stage. uh, let go of my inferiority. You know, let go of that complex that I'm not enough. I can't do it. I'm too little. I didn't learn it. You know, I mean, if I didn't learn it by 8, you know what I mean? You got to stop using that excuse. And the older you get, the more you realize that there are other issues in life. You know, there are difficult, you know, a lot of a lot of difficulty as you age, but the wisdom is worth everything. You do become wiser, and I'm grateful for that. So, where do I want to go? We learned that we need to revise that whole internal operating system. And my thoughts and my words and my actions are very important. You know, I can think things, but if I don't act on them, I'm not going to get anything accomplished. So I read outside literature because I find I get very helpful hints from them. I sponsor 11 women, and I used to speak more often to them, but my life had become unmanageable. My whole life was trying to figure out when I'm speaking to who. So now we speak basically once a week. And once a week, I have a Zoom for my sponsees. Um, I do like live meetings. There's the Zooms are wonderful because we meet people from all over the world, and I wouldn't be able to speak to all of you beautiful people if we're only live. But since we are kind of self, um, I don't know, shy or lonely, or we're introverted, many of us, we prefer to stay home. So I want to just give you a little bit of a kick in the butt to try to get yourself to a live meeting because it's different than a Zoom meeting. Um, yeah. So I
That's
want
fine.
to, okay. So I thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, Rita, for asking me, and thank you all for being here this morning, afternoon, evening.